screen starts glowing and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the is a good score. Dan and Brian, gonna give you the goods. You know we won't be lying. Gonna give you the goods. Masterpiece or trash. Gonna give you the goods. That's why you gotta listen. Gonna give you the goods. Action.
Hey listeners, welcome to the 189th episode of The Goods, a film podcast. You'll probably hear it from my slightly raspy voice. I'll probably edit out any coughs or sniffles, but I am recovering from a nasty cold that's rocked me for the better part of a week now. We delayed our recording a little bit, but now here we are. I'm mostly recovered, and I've been thinking a lot about bodies wearing down and betraying you, which is on theme for today's selection. The 2024 film, I think you would almost certainly say horror. You'd probably say sci-fi. You'd definitely say satire. You might say dark comedy. It's a little bit of everything. It's The Substance, the film from this year. So I told Brian that I thought this film, A, was wild, B, provoked a strong reaction in me, and C, I wanted him to watch it with like as little context and spoilage as possible. And so, Brian, did you get a chance to watch this film, and do you agree with A and B, and were you able to fulfill C?
Yep, all points, I'm there with you, Dan. Sorry to hear that you've been under the weather. Glad that you're on the mend a little bit. 'Tis the season for catching colds, and this movie is wild. It's brand spanking new, too, so one of the few episodes where we're, like, maybe not quite on the bleeding edge, but we're topical.
Yeah, this film, it's the second film by this director whose name is, I don't know how to pronounce things. She's French. Coralie.
Is it like Fergeat or something?
Fargeat? Fargeat? Something like that. I don't know. Coralie F, we'll call her, maybe.
Yeah, some of the actors in this movie give like really strange line deliveries, and I thought maybe they were foreigners, like reading their lines phonetically, but I think all the actors are American, so I don't know what Dennis Quaid is doing.
Yeah. So it's, I guess, a French film in the sense that it, I think, is French director, French production budget. It all is kind of conglomeratized, so I don't know how much the whole production budget and stuff matters as much as it used to. But it is English language, and it takes place in LA. So it kind of feels like an American film, although on a Discord I'm on, we've been debating. Most of us like it, and we've been debating, is it like, do we just like arty, weird French body horror films? Which is like, there's a lot of those, apparently. I haven't seen too many of them.
In terms of body horror films, have you seen anything by Cronenberg?
So that's a good question. So no is the answer.
Okay.
What about you?
Because late last year, I watched Videodrome, which was my first ever Cronenberg film, and it like blew my mind. Very wild film, and this feels a little like that. I mean, he's known for grotesque body horror, getting surreal.
And there's a lot of that in this, yeah. So I think we'll kind of talk through it. I think Cronenberg is a touch point. I've been thinking a lot about body horror, shock horror that like its main purpose is to make you feel squeamish about your own body and like visceral, nauseating empathy at the suffering you're seeing on screen. I want to talk a little bit through that and my mixed feelings on it and whether or not I think it works in this case here.
By the way, listeners, bear in mind this movie is easy to spoil. Dan told me don't spoil it for myself, so you may not want to spoil it for yourself.
That's a good point. So I think to some extent, I mean, even saying that it's body horror is at least a little bit of a spoiler, or at least that it has body horror in it.
Well, you look at the poster, and she's got her like spinal cord ripped out. So I knew this was not going to be like Singing in the Rain.
This is no mumblecore that we're watching today. But yeah, I think there's a delight in seeing just how far and just where Coralie F goes with this premise, the story, how far she pushes it in her direction. So if you like long, weird, arty French horror movies, or just like button-pushing satires, I would say, that make you feel squeamish, give The Substance a go, because I think it's going to get a recommendation from both me and Brian. And I think it's worth going in as unspoiled as you can. There's our disclaimer. Spoilers from here on out. We'll talk through it, but and so if you feel like you got to a point, we'll try not to go like too far ahead of where we are in the recap, but you can always shut us off partway through. But from here on out, be spoilers. What was I saying? Body horror, yeah, all that. So this film has been kind of buzzy. It's been kind of a hit. Second film by Coralie F. I want to talk about her first film. I think it'll fit in a little bit later because I think her first film is basically just a warm-up for this, even though the story is very different. But I don't know, any other prelude on this, Brian? Do you want to say how you pitched this as a generic term for matter doubleheader?
Yeah, so we'll return to this later in the episode, but I just like titles that don't tell you much. It's The Substance. Okay, so it's like person, place, or thing. We know this is a thing.
Yeah, out of those three, right.
You could group it up with other vaguely titled, like, entity horror films. The Thing, obviously, but then you gotta ask, what thing are you talking about? Is it the Addams Family thing? Is it the Fantastic Four thing? Or is it the thing, which itself has been remade several times? And the one, of course, that I was thinking of was The Stuff, which is like a capitalist horror film from the 80s.
I'll also throw It in there.
That's a good one.
I used to get It and The Thing mixed up when I was a kid.
And Dan also suggested The Blob during the week. That to me is a little more specific because that tells me the basic shape. That tells me the consistency. So that gives me a little more.
Okay, I see. Well, when we say The Blob, it's a little too specific for Brian for this this subcategory. Any other preliminary thoughts, or should we just dive into this bonkers film, Brian?
Let's do it.
I got a lot of tangential thoughts and connections, but I will sprinkle them in.
Yeah, we'll be stepping in and out with our thoughts because this is a thought-provoking movie.
So this film opens and we meet Elizabeth Sparkle. So Elizabeth Sparkle.
Well, even before that.
Okay, do you want to talk about that little intro teaser that we get?
Yeah. So the very, very first thing is we see a star being laid on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And the cinematography in this film is wild. So what I had seen about this going in is that it had won at Cannes the Best Screenplay Award. And to me, the screenplay is like the fifth most remarkable thing about this movie.
Totally baffling.
Like the cinematography, just nuts. There's a lot of like experimental fixed camera. Hard to even say. It's like I just gotta bombard you with screenshots of what we're seeing. But this long extended like time-lapse shot of this star going in on the Hollywood Walk and then gradually breaking down.
Right, it fades, it gets little cracks in it. People at first kind of stop and gawk down at it, but then they kind of step over it without thinking about it. Eventually trash flies over it and birds poop on it and stuff like that. And it's a metaphor, Brian.
Yeah. Not a subtle movie necessarily, but well done. Well realizes its theme. It made me think about, there's a quote from Ricardo Montalban, who we saw as the grandfather in the Spy Kids series. And he said that the trajectory that a actor's career follows is, who is Ricardo Montalban? Get me Ricardo Montalban. Get me a young Ricardo Montalban. Who is Ricardo Montalban?
Oh, man. I like that. That's clever. I feel like I've heard other variations of things that have a similar structure to that, but that's good. It's profound. And that is, in essence, what we see in this, man, 3-4 minute opening single shot of the star of This Is How We Meet Elizabeth Sparkle through her Hollywood star, aging over time. And then we see that Elizabeth Sparkle is Demi Moore. So right out of the gate, some thoughts here. Demi Moore, how old is Demi Moore?
So I looked this up. She's 61. And in the movie, the character is just turning 50. And it's believable. Like,
yeah,
she's really good looking. I don't know if I've seen another movie with Demi Moore.
So as much as this will be about like how old bodies are ugly and stuff, I think it's very thematically important that old Elizabeth Sparkle, Demi Moore, beautiful woman. She's like what you hope you will age into, you know? Now, obviously, she's like worked hard to take care of her body. And I think this movie is critical of like the industrial complex of beauty products and like cosmetic work that goes on in Hollywood, but like not a scary monster here.
Yeah. About a third into the movie, I was thinking, why did they pick her for this part? And then I realized it's a story about being careful what you wish for, because they wanted to have a ways to go with the effects, and they go a long ways.
Yeah, but she is, in Hollywood terms, she's aging. Yeah, so I guess what she's like you said she's 50 in the movie, and yeah, so she's, you know, middle-aged woman, but still like Hollywood, you know, she's pretty. And we see her kind of hosting a fitness TV show.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out what year it's supposed to be, because aerobics is huge, and like this specific type of Jane Fonda aerobics program, it's like, okay, well, is it 1986 or something? Because we see like technology in the apartments that almost seem like it's the not too distant future, and we get kind of into science fiction territory as the story goes along. So I was wondering, what year is it?
I think it's very intentionally unclear, I guess, but the importance of the fitness, that being like a central cultural thing, definitely made me think like this is someone who grew up with that, you know, their parents had it in the VHS collection, you know, or like I was thinking a little bit of Zombies, actually, where like cheerleading is like the sport that everyone cares about the school instead of football. It's like this kind of outdated, set to the side thing that somehow gets placed culturally front and center, you know?
Right. What it had me thinking of, well, a couple things. I mean, we recently lost Richard Simmons.
Right.
But specifically, what I had ringing in my ears was the Crystal Light Champions jingle from the like aerobics championship that they hosted in the 80s that you may not necessarily be directly familiar with, but you might have seen the Key and Peele sketch that recreates the event.
I don't know too much about it. I think I might have seen that at Skid at one point.
It's like pairs of, I keep thinking gymnasts. It's not gymnastics, it's aerobics. But like they come out kind of jazzercising, and each one does a routine as they get introduced. It's like, and they've all got like American Gladiator names, like Axe, Mindy, and they do this little like jumping jacks, but it's their own personal jumping jack.
It's pretty good, yeah. And I know the vibe. It's an easy to parody thing.
And everything has this like hyper saturated, like synthwave color scheme.
Nice. Yeah. To me, I was trying to think, like, what would this be in real life? And the best I could come up with is like like the Drew Barrymore type shows, the Kelly Clarkson type shows, like the kind of the post Oprah, they're kind of vanity shows. Like, I'm famous, just hang out with me, a famous person, but also like they're talk shows that explore issues and stuff. This is clearly something much more shallow than that, than like talking, but like the same way where you're kind of like an icon that people just kind of know who you are, you know?
Right. At the same time, it's like a very stylized reality that something just seems not quite right, not quite real. We're in like a comic book space.
Yeah, for sure. You used the word surreal earlier, and I think this has got degrees of surreality to it. Let's see. So there's one character who's the producer, and that's Dennis Quaid, whom you mentioned. While Elizabeth is in the bathroom, she overhears this producer basically talking about how that old Elizabeth Sparkle, we got to dump her. We got to get some hot new thing into this show to revive it.
I'm pretty sure the producer's name is Harvey.
That is right. I was going to ask if you caught that. It's a little on the nose, but you know, this is again not a subtle film. And so like her career is starting to implode. She's hung on at the top for as long as she could, and now the downward spiral of being post-fame, of being golden years movie star, TV star, is staring her face down. So she's kind of very upset, and she gets into her car and drives home, and she gets into a car accident. And it's a little bit of a fake out because you think, oh no, she's going to have some bodily damage and they're going to like cyborg rebuild her or something. Smash cut to a doctor's office and the doctor's like, well, you're fine. Like, no problems. Got a little bump there, but you know, you're free to go. And this had me thinking about other car accidents in movies that I've seen, Brian.
I was thinking Whiplash. Like, Miles Teller got more messed up than she gets here.
Yeah, and that one, like, the point is that he got messed up, but like not so messed up that he can't like walk away from the scene. Whiplash is a great film. I really got to watch that again. I love Damien Chazelle as a director. But another one, actually another Miles Teller film, is The Spectacular Now. And that one is notable because there is basically the same beat as here. I mean, it's not played with the same cadence, but there's a fake out car crash where there's this whole thing where he's secretly an alcoholic and you're like, oh God, how's this going to ruin his life? How's this going to ruin his life? And then he like drinks too much and he's driving really angry with his girlfriend in the car. And you're like, oh no, it's going to happen. And then sure enough, he gets into a car accident, but nobody dies. Nobody's injured. It's like right where you would expect it to happen. Sorry for spoiling The Spectacular Now, but, which I still think even with that spoiler is a great film worth watching, but another fake out car crash for you. So as she's getting ready to leave the hospital, this nurse who is like, looks like a male model, he's like a decidedly over handsome young man, starts like feeling her spine and it's like, oh yeah, you'll be great for this, and hands her a little package. And she steps outside and looks at the package, and it's a USB drive that has the word "the substance" on it, and then a phone number on the back that she can call.
There's somebody in the credits listed as the Substance font designer.
That font gets a lot of play, so kudos to them. But it's also like a stark and minimal font, I would say. So I don't like. How can you be a font designer in these days? I don't know. Like, I guess you're a specialist in like what typeface is good, and I don't know. That would be an interesting job, font specialist. But another thing happens here. She's walking out of the doctor's office is that she bumps into an old high school friend. And this has the same comic beat as
Ryerson! Ned Ryerson!
From Groundhog Day. He even looks a little bit like Stephen Tobolowsky.
I've just spent the last 3 days filming at a state park in Pennsylvania that was Ryerson State Park, and that was what I was thinking the whole time.
Phil Connors? Great film. But also, like, it's humiliating for Elizabeth because he's just like a schmuck, and he's essentially asking her out on a date, and she's like, oh my God, have I descended so far that randos on the street feel comfortable asking me out on a date, you know? I was also thinking of, I've been doing this writing project recently on some music I love, and I was thinking about the song Hackensack by Fountains of Wayne, which I'll drop in the Discord as part of this, but Hackensack is this absolutely terrific song, and it's told from the perspective of like a blue-collar schmuck in New Jersey who dreams of reuniting with a girl from his high school class who he had a crush on, who went on to be a Hollywood star. And so he's like dreaming of her coming back. But it's like told in this very earnest, empathetic sort of way where he's like lovingly longing for her and singing, I will wait for you as long as I need to come back to Hackensack. And it's just got a air of comedy about it, as well as an air of sweetness to it and delusion. So I was thinking of that as well. So she gets home. At first, she resists the call of what could the substance be, but then she plugs it into her TV, and it gives her like a little overview of what the substance is without really telling you anything. It made me think a little bit of like the Jurassic Park infographic where they got the cartoon DNA guy or whatever.
Bingo! Dino DNA!
But it's a more kind of minimal and arty version of that, I guess. So she's going to do it. So then she spends kind of a couple of days. She gets fired, like the producer suggested she might, and now she's like kind of facing her faded glory, like looking at old awards she won. Slow-mo shot of a what do you call those things that you shake, and the snow globe type things with a little figurine of her in it and all this stuff, just facing down that she's over the hill, and she decides to go get the substance.
Because the tagline of the substance that plays in the little infomercial is like, don't you want a better version of yourself? So we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's offering you like a new lease on life.
Right, so there's tension on what is the substance, what's it going to do at this point. When she makes this phone call to get the substance, the person on the phone is very mysterious. And it had me thinking of the mysterious phone calls in Mulholland Drive, Brian. There's one where she has to go find Diane Selwyn, and I don't know, I was thinking of Mulholland Drive during parts of this, because it's another sort of satire on the dark underbelly of Hollywood, you know? So she goes, it's like this clinical, almost mailroom. She gets the substance, and it's this box. Like, it looks like the sort of thing you get in the mail when you order like one of those meal kits or something. And she opens it, and it's got the ingredients for the substance, the steps. So the ingredients are activator, stabilizer, switch, food matrix, and then the instructions are: you activate only once, you stabilize every day, you switch every 7 days without exception. And then a one in big font. The font specialist went overboard on this one. It says, remember you are one. So that's kind of like a motif throughout this. You are one. Remember, you are one.
Right, you gotta follow the rules, gotta stick to the rules. It's like Gremlins. It had me thinking about when I was little, there was a book that my mom would read that was called A Fish Out of Water.
Oh, yes.
This kid gets a goldfish from a pet store, and there's like this mysterious pet store proprietor who gives him the rules to feed the goldfish, and he starts breaking the rules, feeding the goldfish too much, and it grows giant. And then the end of the book is the mysterious man comes, does some procedure that you don't see. Immediately, the goldfish returns to its proper size, and the guy is like, follow the rules, kid.
Yeah. Mr. Carp. I know A Fish Out of Water quite well. It was my brother Brad's favorite book as a kid.
Great book.
I've read it to my daughter several times. So yeah. So then, I don't know, Brian, every now and then when we talk about movies, I'll say that this movie has a scene that I call the scene. It's like the reason you watch this movie is to get to this scene. And I would say The Substance has not one, not two, but three the scenes.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Because once we got it once and then twice, I was like, where is the movie going to go? There's still like an hour left. And it did not ever bore me.
No. So we get the first of the scenes here. So it takes place in a bathroom. And I like the set design of this bathroom. It's very minimal and clean and like kind of scientific. It makes you think of like a science room in like sci-fi movies. And she injects herself with this activator. So I love the way this activator stuff looks. It's green goo. What it had me thinking of is in Friday the 13th, part 8, they go to Manhattan and it's like a just expressionistic, insane metropolis. Like someone who learned about cities from just reading the worst possible headlines about crime in Chicago in the 80s. And there's these like gangsters, like rough hoodlums that have this drug that they inject, and it's got this green goo that looks a lot like this. But this is just your generic movie prop green goo that the activator stuff is. And so here she does. She injects herself with this activator. And then the effect of the substance becomes apparent. She collapses on the floor, and here's how I would describe it. Her skin splits in two from her back. Like it parts. It's kind of like birth.
Right, she's like a cocoon.
Yeah. And out comes another person, another woman. And that is what the substance does. It turns you into a young version of yourself. So there's a few things we got to talk about here, Brian. So one is you mentioned the movie's length. We're about, I don't know, like 45 minutes, 35 minutes into the film at this point. And it's just started. This is a long movie. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's 140 minutes. Sometimes on my movie reviews, I talk about Nate's Casablanca rule. So Nate, he was on the pod not too long ago. One of my old friends. He wrote in a comment early when I was writing movie reviews on my site that a phrase which has stuck with me, which is that Casablanca told its story in 100 minutes. If you can't tell your story in the length that it took Casablanca to tell its story, you better have a darn good reason. So this is obviously quite a bit longer than 100 minutes. And I get very worried when any movie is that long, especially a horror movie. Horror movies don't need to be long, in my opinion, in general. The longer you stretch out scares, the less scary they become, in general. So I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. But the way that this is long actually works for me, I gotta say. It takes every beat of a relatively not that convoluted story, like a decent amount of things happen. Like you probably could tell a story in 90 minutes, but it takes every beat and makes it the most maximal, unhinged, intense version of itself. It'll do it like a 15-minute version of that beat and just build and build and build and build till your heart's beating. And I just loved it. I was like, it always went for more and more and more, not just at the end, but every step along the way.
Right. And the production design is incredible. The cinematography is amazing. Everything's firing on all cylinders.
Another thing to point out at this point is, so there is a lot of nudity in this film, particularly in this scene.
Yeah, I was wondering about this. So it made sense to me that the first time it happens, everybody's naked because she's got to inject herself And then when the new woman is born, of course she's naked. But then they say you activate only once. Like this step ostensibly only is only supposed to happen once. After which I would think they would get dressed. But it seems like every time they're in this room, they're both naked.
And I think that's at least partially thematic. It's like, well, okay, so the nudity serves a purpose. It's to like compare an aging body, still beautiful, but aging body, versus like a young, pristine, perfect body. And we haven't said that the actress who plays the other Elizabeth is named Margaret Qualley. And so there's something about this film that I think needs to be noted, which is that it has a gaze on the female body, very much so, like extended and, I would say almost pornographic, not like it has a lot of sex in it, but in like the way that it like fetishizes the body. I guess you don't even call it a fetish if it's just the body that you're doing, but like the way that it turns it into an object of lust, I guess, and of worship almost by the camera. And I think that's important thematically to this film. I mean, it's kind of a lot going on in the themes here, all pretty much on the surface. There's not like secret themes here, but it's all that's kind of necessary to really amplify the reason that Demi Moore's version of this person is reacting so strongly to having this young, youthful body that everybody is like responding to, I guess. I don't know.
Right. And the prevalence of the gaze had me wondering, like, I went to the proverbial VHS box. I guess I went to Wikipedia or whatever. I was like, who wrote and directed this? Was it a man or a woman? And it is a woman. Mm-hmm. But it definitely understands like really attractive female bodies and the like sex sells angle of that.
So this is where I'll mention that Coralie F., the writer-director, her previous film is a film from 2017 called Revenge. And it is like a almost run-of-the-mill, narrative-wise, rape revenge thriller. It's kind of like The Substance in that it's got a pretty simple and direct and linear plot, but it like amplifies it with this intense direction, almost psychedelic direction, and it's got body horror stuff in it. But also both films kind of, they don't subvert the male gaze aspect, but it like reclaims it and turns the gaze itself into like a statement on femininity and like how like these women kind of their bodies are used as their definition in various scenarios, I guess. So very interesting and provocative, I guess. And that type of stuff's not really my expertise, but I found it provocative, I guess.
I also read that Qualley has prosthetic breasts. So like even the idealized beautiful form is kind of a monster suit.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, I had read that too. So what do you know Margaret Qualley from? And I guess we can talk about Demi Moore too, but do you know Margaret Qualley from anything?
So I had not seen her before to my knowledge. I did read that she's Andie MacDowell's daughter. So another Groundhog Day connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of it as I said it, but you're right. I think she looks a little bit like Andie MacDowell, but where you really notice it is her teeth. She's got the same teeth as Andie MacDowell. And in particular, I actually think it's kind of cool because most Hollywood actresses get a lot of teeth work done, but Margaret Qualley has kind of kept her natural teeth. I mean, she might have had teeth work done, but like they look like natural teeth. And so it's kind of like, they always said like Cindy Crawford, it was her mole that most people would have said, get it removed, that made her look distinct and memorable. To some extent, that's kind of true of Margaret Qualley. Like she's got this really distinct smile because her her teeth just look a little unusual for a Hollywood actress. And yeah, it made me think of Andie MacDowell. I think she's a better actress than Andie MacDowell. We've kind of dumped on Andie MacDowell in the past on this podcast, or at least I have. She's in like a bunch of movies the past 2 years. She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Did you see that one?
Was that the Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah.
Haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't either, but yeah, she's in that one. She's in the new Yorgos film, Kinds of Kindness. And she was in Drive Away Dolls, which was like one of two lesbian thrillers. There was like twin films of lesbian thrillers that came out about like a month apart. But for me, the main touch point for Margaret Qualley is she was in The Leftovers, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. She plays the daughter of Justin Theroux in that film. Or not that film, that series. And then Demi Moore, she famously was married to Bruce Willis. That was like a huge celebrity marriage from like the, 80s or 90s or something like that. She was G.I. Jane also. I'm looking at her other films.
Wasn't she with Ashton Kutcher at one point?
Yes. Yep. That's right. And she was like older than Kutcher. So that was like, normally it goes the other way.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just kind of, I think she might have been in St. Elmo's Fire too. Like she was part of the Brat Pack. Yeah. Yep. St. Elmo's Fire, About Last Night. So yeah. She's been around since like the mid 80s and has always been just kind of like a famous person. She looks a little bit like Courtney Cox to me. So after she emerges from this other body, she has to like sew up and care for Demi Moore, who is like now this just lying there on the ground is like this, it's almost a corpse. It's like she's unconscious, her naked body sprawled on the floor. And there's just from that, there's like this uncanny, almost body horror element because they got to move the body around. It's like, it had me thinking, of course, of the Daniel Radcliffe one, Swiss Army Man, the way that like the physical manipulation of the body is kind of like an aspect of the story too.
Right. So the way that it works is they take turns. They each get a week, and you gotta be, you might ask, well, why would you want to go back to being the old one? Just be the young one all the time. But what keeps the young one young is like cerebrospinal fluid from the old one. And so while the old one is lying there in the bathroom, the young one juices on the spine fluid. And you need to like live in the old body for a little while periodically to recharge the spine fluid.
Right, so that was one of the directions. You switch every 7 days without exception. But even before that happens, we get our first like vision of the body horror because she's got it when she has to sew the body up, and we're getting like close zoom-ins on like needles sewing bodies up and like injections into spines and stuff. It's given us just a little teaser, a little appetizer for what's to come.
Have you ever had to get stitches, Dan?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah.
Oh, I never have. It really freaks me out. I've so far avoided it.
Well, now they don't do stitches as often anymore. They have like this body tapes type stuff they use generally now.
Oh, wow. One time at Six Flags, I cut myself. Somehow I like sliced my toe in the pool at the water park. And I went to like the first aid station, and there was this kid there, like, he might have been 17 or something. But he's like, oh, have you ever got stitches before? I'm like, I don't want to start now, and it better not be you doing. I am not getting stitches for the first time from a 17-year-old Six Flags employee.
Dude, I don't know what it is about Six Flags specifically. Six Flags is like the Wild West. Like every time I hear about someone going there, there's some story like there was like a deer carcass on the sidewalk, or like I don't think I've heard that one, but like something like that. Like, oh, some 18-year-old offered to give me stitches in a tent. It's like, okay, only at Six Flags. Never at Kings Dominion. It's always Six Flags. So now that she is the young version of herself, she decides to go and audition for the role on the fitness show, the aerobics show that her old version just got fired from, her old body. It's still her, of course, or is it? I don't know. That's kind of part of the investigation of the film. How much is what our body is our identity, you know, our essence. And she goes to the audition and she like tries on this very 80s like pink suit, exercise suit that like is like a V in the lower half, so like it goes all the way up her legs and designed to accentuate her young body. And when they ask her what her name is, she just says Sue.
Yeah,
Sue,
what the heck? Is that the name that you pick if you're the most like beautiful, like genie magical woman to be unleashed on the planet? You're gonna be Sue?
I guess so. Also, never like nobody ever asks her what her last name is. No question about what her last. She's just Sue. It's Madonna. She's Sue.
Yeah, I would think something like Madonna, like Veronica, Vanessa, Sue.
And so, of course, she gets the job. And so we see what the new show is like. And it's gone from like, we happen to have a beautiful actress in this aerobics show to like, we're going to do super long zoom in on the smile, then the butt, then the breasts of this beautiful actress. And that is the essence of the show. Definitely not subtle about its themes about objectifying women, you know?
What made me laugh was as this production starts up that, okay, now she's in the lead role and they like start advertising it. There's this enormous bulletin board outside Elizabeth's apartment. I guess it's both of their apartment. But it just says new show.
Of course.
Advertising does not work that way. It's like, what?
No information. New show.
You need to tell me a little more. You need to, where do I watch it? What is it?
That has me thinking of, is it Repo Man where the products, or is that what it was where the products are just like beer, bread, like the minimal names? New show.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so what Sue / Elizabeth decide is that while she is in the one form, the body of the other form gets shoved in, like she takes a sledgehammer to a hole in the wall and shoves her other body in there. And like frequently whenever she's doing what she's doing, she like in fear glance over at where the body is. And it had me thinking of like the Telltale Heart or something like that. Like whichever version she is, the other version is her dark secret, you know?
Right. I was also thinking about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that a lot too. And it had me wondering who's Jekyll and who's Hyde, Brian? Who's the good, who's the kind version and who's the monstrous version, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because they both have properties of the other, of part of it.
I was wondering about, well, I guess I hadn't thought necessarily about that. Who's the good and who's the evil one? What I was thinking was who's the real one, which is kind of an issue that comes up in Jekyll and Hyde. Is, you know, at first he takes the medicine and then it like unleashes the id and like it taking the medicine lets him release. But then it gets to a point where it's like he's got to take the medicine to contain that. It's like to be Jekyll at all, he needs the medicine. Otherwise, he'd just be Hyde all the time.
Right. And so to that extent, like the recurring motif is remember you are one. But like increasingly, the two versions start hating and resenting the other one. Even though it's like the same person, ostensibly the same consciousness, they think about the other as if it's another person. Like the distance between them grows. When she's Elizabeth, she's just stewing that somehow just because she's this young body that's not even the real, quote unquote, real her, is getting all the fame that was hers in the past life. And meanwhile, just sitting there eating junk food and being angry and looking out at the new show banner all the time. And then it flips. And then when she's Margaret Qualley, when she's Sue, she's like, I can't believe how gross a life my gross old body lives, you know? Like, ugh, it's so disgusting. I can't believe she has to live like that. That monstrous person.
It had me thinking about the memes, drunk me creates problems that sober me has to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. This takes a little bit of a turning point. So it's 7 days on the button. You have to switch by 7 days, or that's just the rule. It's like a basic drug instruction you get on a prescription bottle. You don't want to overdose. You don't want to not take it when you're supposed to, you know?
Yeah, and like with antibiotics, you got to take the whole dosage, even if the infection goes away, because we gave you a specific amount for a reason. Don't be taking decisions into your own hands.
But one night, Sue is drunk, partying, hooking up with some hot guy she met at the club. And she's like, I just need 1 more hour to finish this fun night. And she goes and she rushes to the bathroom, sticks the needle back in Demi Moore, pulls out just a little more fluid, just a little bit, and takes it. And so now she gets her 1 extra hour. She wakes up in the morning. She's back to Elizabeth, back to Demi Moore. And something has happened because she went that 1 hour past, because she took that little extra bit out. She didn't go back and recharge. And that is that her finger, one finger, has grown old and decrepit. It's got the what do you call the spots, and it's got like bony.
Yeah, it's like mummified. It's like basically a mummy finger.
It's what you would expect like an actual old person's finger to look like, a pretty old person, I guess. But in contrast to, you know, like Demi Moore, who's got beautiful skin and all that, it's like, wow, now she has this one really gross part on her. Hope she doesn't push that one any further, Brian.
Yeah. I pulled out my copy of A Fish Out of Water, Dan, and the passage that I was thinking of. Then Mr. Carp told me, when you feed a fish, never feed him a lot. So much and no more, never more than a spot. Or something may happen. You never know what.
Phenomenal book. Is that written by Dr. Seuss? I can't remember.
I think it was P.D. Eastman.
Okay.
So definitely somebody who operated in that same space.
Yeah, I think it was even by the same publisher.
Not to be confused with Theo Lessig, who was just another pen name for Dr. Seuss.
Exactly, yeah. So when she's Sue, she's the hot thing in town. Everybody wants Sue around. Everybody's treating her like queen of the world. So constantly, it's like this, I don't know, like 20-minute long montage. She just pushes it a little further, a little further. Oh, what if I extend my time just a little bit more to do this one thing? And meanwhile, whenever she's back at being Demi Moore, like she's feeling more and more self-loathing. Like she wants someone to appreciate her for still being Elizabeth Sparkle. She calls up the Ned Ryerson guy, and but is even too afraid to go out on a date with him because of like her self-consciousness about her body in contrast to Sue.
Yeah, this was a really painful scene because she's about to go out the door and then she needs it to be perfect. And she just spirals.
And then of course when she's Sue, she doesn't want to go back to being that old body. She wants to stay being Sue. So she starts to push it a little further. And then we gradually see Demi Moore's body getting worse and worse. Oh, just push it a little further. A little further. And now Demi Moore looks like, instead of like she's, 50, now she looks like, 80 or something. She's got this horrible arthritis. She can't move her leg. Her hair has gotten all gray and long and wispy. Her skin is all splotchy and wrinkly. And the spot where she pulls out injections is looking grosser and grosser, like almost infected. And things are getting worse and worse here, Brian. What this had me thinking of a little bit was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where, of course, the queen starts out, she's quite beautiful, but she's obsessed with being the most beautiful, and in doing so transforms herself into an old hag.
I'm glad you brought that up, because watching this, I was thinking we really have had a theme this past year of watching movies where the moral or the message is like, damn, I wish I was young and hot. Snow White is definitely one of them, but like we literally just watched X, and to a lesser extent, its sequels are also about that. I feel like there was at least one other one. Oh, Something Wicked This Way Comes, also. That's what they're dealing with, is I wish I was younger.
That's right. I'm going to look up our show, see if there are any other ones that have that theme. The Faculty definitely has an element of that because it's got the old teachers.
That's right. And you have the naked old lady in the shower. So
right.
Really kind of, who like disintegrates, like her hair sloughs off.
Yeah, which is a little preview for what's coming here. May December's got a little bit of that too, still, I would say.
Oh, wow, you're right. May December, where she's being replaced by the younger version.
Yeah.
Wow. Hadn't even thought about that one.
It's all coming together. You mentioned, Brian, whenever they swap back and forth, for whatever reason, they're always naked. They don't have to be, but they are. And so, as we mentioned, the Demi Moore version is getting older and older. And through the movie magic, her body is looking older and older and older.
And what I was wondering, like, you would assume that the body is aging, like, lying there on the floor, but you never see it that way. Like, you see Sue taking the juice out, like, juicing, and then reluctantly going back into the body, and then it's always that the Elizabeth character sits bolt upright, and it's some new monster.
Yeah, some new worse version. So I would say, even going beyond your theme of I wish I was young and beautiful, we've kind of also inadvertently had a naked old people theme month.
Yeah, you threatened it, and we're basically there, so.
With Faculty, yeah. We joked, like, if we ever made a Patreon, it would be, let's make sure Dan and Brian don't talk about old naked people, but it's too late, people. It already happened. Sorry, it's unavoidable.
You had your chance. You could have subscribed.
I mean, we don't have Patreon, so no, they couldn't have. They could have written us, I guess, a check and mailed it to us. Joined the Discord, thegoodsfilmpodcast.com, and pleaded with us. So, let's see. And every time she goes back into Elizabeth and is in a worse form, she starts being like, have I pushed it too far? Was this whole thing a mistake? Should I stop doing it? Or is it worth it? Because by the time she gets to the end of the week, it's like a drug. It's like, I got to break the addiction of going back and being Sue. I'm just about free of it. But then I could go get that hit one more time. I could go be young Sue again one more time. And then, of course, she comes back and it's worse and worse and worse. It's like, it's an addiction thing too, Brian. And things come to a head. We're going to kind of reach our climax here when Sue gets invited to host the big New Year's Eve party. So, do you watch any New Year's Eve parties, Brian, on TV?
Yeah, it's usually the show that was formerly Dick Clark, and now it's Ryan Seacrest. That's usually the one that I tune in for a while, and then once the ball drops, I usually go back to the Twilight Zone marathon.
The thing is, like, well, we'll see it, but it doesn't really make sense as a New Year's show. It just seems like another episode of the show that she does. And
it's really strange when we finally get there.
Yeah, but we will. So the thing is, New Year's is happening when she's Elizabeth, not when she's Sue. So she has to push it further and further. And the last time when she is Elizabeth, before she's Sue, before the New Year's thing, she finally decides, all right, I'm done. And she like calls in and to the number that she got in the first place at the beginning. Is like, I want out. Give me a way to get out of this. Like, well, we can send you a termination kit. And so they mail it to her. And now she has this new injection. It's blacker and thicker, and it says termination on it in like the same font that whoever that font designer is came up with.
Yeah, so you can be just Elizabeth, but you can't be just Sue. So this is Elizabeth taking the initiative to seize that back and just be her going forward. No more Sue.
But presumably she would be stuck in the version of the body she had. she already spent what she thought was her, you know, old body, but actually still had quite a bit of beauty and youth in it, extracted what was left of that. And now she's very much like a stereotypical old hag, hunched over, like puffy face, hooked nose. She looks like a witch or something.
Right. She looks like Angelica Houston once you see her true form in The Witches, Roald Dahl's The Witches. Or like Meg Mucklebones, the witch in that the fairy tale story with Tom Cruise, Legend. Like that. Very, very already monstrous.
Yeah, and she's like got like a hooked leg, and she can barely walk straight. And like her fingernails are all like grody and scars and pock marks all over her. A real triumph of makeup, I guess you would call it. Effects. Gross out makeup, horror, something like that. But we're not there just yet, Brian. So now she's like, all right, I'm going to terminate this arrangement I have. And she goes and she starts to inject Sue with this new termination liquid. She's going to be stuck in her Elizabeth body forever. And just as she's wrapping it up, like when she's about to get like the last drop in, she's like, no, I don't actually want to do it. I don't want to stop my being Sue. And she pulls it out and she tries to resuscitate Sue and injects her with something and like bring her back to life. And Sue finally, now Sue wakes back up. Okay. But also Elizabeth stays awake. They're awake at the same time now. And so this is where we get what I would say is the scene 2 of this film, where I was like, oh my gosh, this scene must be the reason this movie exists. Like, this is what I will remember about this film. And now we have like an absolutely brutal physical fight between Sue and Elizabeth. They're literally battling each other. And of course, Sue is like young and healthy and active, and she's winning the fight. And not just winning the fight, but like smashing Sue's face into glass mirror and stomping on it and blood squirting out. And this had me thinking of Revenge. One of the interesting things about Revenge is I was like, this is just bravura level of fake blood, like just gallons and gallons of it. And I was like, I guess they're doing a little bit of that here in The Substance, but like, hold your horses on that one. It's not going to be little by the end of the blood, the viscera. Because Revenge has like rivers of fake blood, but even that was just warm up, like I said.
And Revenge, that's the other film from this director?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. The one that she made before this. So now, just in time, Sue is back to being Sue, because whatever happened to Elizabeth, she's in rough shape now. Like quivering on the floor, barely breathing. And Sue's like, whatever, I'm going out. Don't worry about this. Gonna go deal with the New Year's show. So she goes out there, but it's very clear that like she's running on fumes, her beauty spell, her substance spell. So she gets to where it is, where the New Year's show is. And just to go back to the fight scene, I really love this as it's like, again, nothing in this movie is subtle, but like representing the self-loathing and the double standards and the way women are taught to hate themselves for what they really are in Hollywood and even just in media in general, you know, beauty standards and all that stuff you hear about all the time. I thought it was a good depiction of it. It very viscerally, like, oh God, like when the face is getting smashed in and stuff. Just a phenomenally memorable scene, I would say. But at this New Year's event, clearly something's not right with this last gasp of Sue. Of no, I'm gonna do it, because what happens is she's talking and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, something's not right. She goes into the bathroom and her tooth just falls out of her gums. She like touches it and like it just comes out. And I don't know what it is, Brian. Like this, something about teeth coming out is just like, ugh. Isn't that like a classic nightmare that people have?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot of people have that as a dream. So that's what I was thinking about here. I've never had that dream. Yeah, teeth are grody. Losing teeth, it's not good. She's breaking down. And remember, though, to stay alive, she needs Elizabeth, and now Elizabeth is either done or on the way to being done. She's like the mom in Pearl. She's crumpled somewhere, basically dead. And so things are not looking good.
One thing I'll throw out here is that I don't really like shock horror, body horror, like pure, undiluted version of it. Like the Terrifier series, not my cup of tea. The whole purpose of that is like, I'm going to show you a human body suffering horrible things. And that is the purpose of this film. In cruel, sadistic ways. It's going to make you feel gross about your body.
Right. Well, I think torture films are a little different than what usually get called body horror. I think body horror usually involves disease or aging.
Or like a transformation in some way, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think why it works, at least in the cases where it's disease or aging, is because most of us are never going to run into a Jason. Like, it's within the realm of possibility that you could encounter, say, a Hannibal Lecter. But probably not a Michael Myers. Definitely not a Freddy Krueger.
Or an Art the Clown.
Yes.
That's the Terrifier guy.
Yes. But each and every one of us is going to age and die. Everybody is. Sooner or later, your body's going to break down and you're going to get gross.
I think that's astute. And I was also going to say, like, in the context of how well developed the character is and, like, the purpose of this suffering and, like, body, I don't know, mutilation that she goes through. But yes, it's, like, not just, like, violence upon it, but, like, disfiguring of it through bizarre processes that are heightened version of real processes is different than, as you say, torture, pure torture type stuff. And so, like, this made me feel squeamish, but in a way that, like, felt like it heightened the movie. Like, not like it was designed to be gross and yucky and just shock you. It really felt like it was part of the story in a meaningful way that I like, okay, compare it back even to, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we just talked about recently. And I think that's not quite the same because, as we talked about, you don't actually see that much violence in there, but it's kind of serving a similar purpose. Like, you're going to feel really bad about how messed up it is what happens to these kids. And I sometimes, if it has a comic edge to it, I kind of don't mind that too much. Texas Chainsaw Massacre does not have a comic edge to it. And this one, I would say, kind of does have a dark comedy edge to it. But more importantly, it's serving this story and this on the surface theme, but very well developed theme, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I agree with all of that. And I was laughing. And by the end of this one, laughing pretty hard. Like, it's very over the top.
It's like a shock laugh. Like, oh my God, they're doing it. Oh my God, they've gone there. Oh my God, this is happening. And, like, you're laughing as it happens.
But it inspired me. I pulled out a passage from a book that I read once. It's from this series of books that were put out by Time Life magazine that Vincent Price sold them in infomercials. But it was just kind of like a compendium of little short horror stories. But from the preface of one of the volumes in this series, it's talking about ghosts. And it says, "No matter what the joy in life, no matter how bright and shining its pleasures, the end is the same. A solitary plot of cold earth that the rain beats upon and the wind howls over. Within that patch of ground, flesh once sweet and rosy grows foul and gray and shrinks and shreds from the bones. Heart and brain melt away to nothing. That is mortality, to end alone, forever in the dark. And behind the countenance of even a smiling ghost is the cold leer of the cadaver. Just as I am, the ghost tells the living, so shall you be."
Beautiful. You were thinking of that?
Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting. This movie is about things, not subtly, but also not didactically. You would think that would almost be a contradiction. Like, if it's on the surface, it's being didactic about it, but like, it doesn't drown you in buzzwords or telling you what's right or wrong.
Yeah. They don't say it. No character explicitly states the themes.
So somehow it bothered me less, I guess. So where were we? Her teeth falling out. And so she's like, she has this brilliant idea. She's like, well, okay. When I was Elizabeth Sparkle, I injected myself with the activator, and out came a more beautiful version of Elizabeth Sparkle, younger and prettier. Well, now I'm Sue, and my Sue body is starting to fall apart. What if I inject Sue with activator? And so we can already see it's the cycle. It's you're fresh meat until you're not anymore, and then they need to bring in the next load of fresh meat, you know?
And I was smiling at this point because I hadn't even thought of this. And then I'm just wondering, all right, what's gonna happen? Because now I see why the movie is actually a whole half hour longer.
And so she tries to leave the building, and that producer Harvey and a group of people are like, "Oh, you ready for the big show tonight, lady?" And she nods, and they're like, "Hey, you gotta smile." But remember, her teeth have fallen out, so she gives like this awkward closed mouth smile that's been gifted a bunch of times on social media. I've seen this gif pop up as like being an awkward smile where you feel like you're forced to agree or something like that, or like you're forced to smile and nod. And I saw somebody tweet it with, if you haven't seen the movie, you have no idea what is happening right here. The context being that her teeth are falling out, you know. But then somebody quote tweeted that and said, can't you say that about literally any movie scene? If you haven't seen the movie, you don't know what's happening right here. Well, I guess that's true. I guess every scene, if you just get a gif of it, you don't know unless you've seen what builds up to it. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I like that. This New Year's show, people are coming out for this New Year's show, like coming out onto the stage, and it's a whole bunch of topless women. Like, where is this show being broadcast? This is not the Dick Clark show that I've seen. It had me thinking about the Monty Python movie Meaning of Life, where it ends with this big, like, spectacular musical number in heaven, and there's a bunch of topless angels for some reason.
Yeah, so I don't know what this show is, and it's like on a stage. So this had me again thinking of Mulholland Drive, because there like a very important scene happens in a bizarre, otherworldly stage there too. That's Club Silencio. Here, she's the one on the stage rather than in the audience. But like, what is this New Year's show? I don't know. But so she rushes back home. She injects herself with what's left of the activator. And okay, what's going to come out? The more beautiful version of Margaret Qualley? What would that be? Would she be even younger? Would she be a baby? Who knows? We'll see. And we get the same effect that we got the first time, where you don't quite see what it is at first. Something comes out, and you can't see what it is. And then we get a little clarity on it, and it is not a more beautiful version of Margaret Qualley. It is this gross monstrosity. It gets labeled. So like they label the characters throughout. We see Elizabeth, we see Sue, and they call this Monster Eliza Sue. And it had me thinking of a bunch of different things, Brian, but it's like, it's just this like gloppy semi-human, skin mashed and shaped into blobs and vaguely humanoid, but like, I don't know. What were you thinking of with this?
So have you ever looked up pictures of teratomas, Dan?
No.
All right. So a teratoma is a type of tumor that contains like miscellaneous body tissues in it. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a oncologist or anything like that. I don't know if this is part way to being like a parasitic twin, like a fetus that was partially absorbed into the other body. But I've seen pictures of these things getting removed, and like if you cut them open, they can have hair inside and teeth inside and like formed body parts inside what is otherwise just a mass of flesh.
That's disgusting.
So she's one of those.
But like as a whole organism.
Right. Like she's got like a jawbone sticking out of her side, and she has like extra eyes and extra ears. And she's all lumpy.
And the best one is she has, like, I think it's Demi Moore's face on her shoulder and a constant scream. It's like, ah! And, like, the eyes are looking around like they're trapped in this husk. It also had me thinking a little bit of, like, Floop.
I sent you a meme and you didn't ha-ha it. So I have to believe you either didn't see it or just scrolled by it, but it was Tony Shalhoub with the four faces stretching off of his face, and it said the substance underneath. So.
Oh, did I not like that? Now that you say that, I remember that. So credit to you for that.
You're right. It's very Foogly.
And it also kind of evokes like the same reaction we're supposed to feel to like the Elephant Man, I guess, like something that doesn't look human, but like, is it human? I guess is a theme. And then like, have you seen Under the Skin, Brian?
No, I didn't see that one. I saw The Skin I Live In.
So Under the Skin, Scarlett Johansson plays a serial killer. So you would probably know if you'd seen that one. But there's an actor who has whatever, I don't know if it's what you just described, but has some condition where he's very physically deformed compared to what our normal expectation of a person's appearance is. And I should look up this actor's name. I'll drop it in the Discord. He's in Under the Skin, and he was in another movie this year, actually. But in the way that like our visceral human reaction, like they say the reason that we're scared of things that look almost human but like misshapen is like because evolutionarily we want to be afraid of corpses because corpses have diseases. And so like that's us wanting to run away from corpses, you know? But anyways, we have this monster Elizasu, which really is up there for me in terms of like great monster designs in any movie.
I was like clapping and stomping my feet at this point. This was so funny and gross. It was really great. And it was just something that I wasn't expecting was going to happen.
It really goes there. It's like multiple times this movie goes there. It just keeps pushing beyond, you know? And so she's like, she can barely walk. It's like this sort of clumpy stumble walk. And she's like, she takes a cutout of, I can't remember if it's Margaret Qualley's, I think it's Margaret Qualley's face, and like tapes it all over her horrendous, like monstrous form. And
right, because she's got to get ready for the event.
I know, it's got to be her.
She starts dressing up.
Yeah, she puts on the fancy dress and everything, and just like dragging her leg through the hallway back to the studio.
She like pierces the earrings through the random flesh.
Yeah, ugh. And she gets there and like she manages to get on stage without anybody really seeing her. And while she's on and like the lights are off because the show's about to start, people are like, "Oh, there you are." But because they haven't actually seen her yet. They've just seen this someone in a blue dress has gone on stage. And then the lights turn on and everybody turns and looks and sees what it is. And then people start screaming. And like, it's at this point, it's like Frankenstein's monster on display, like this grotesquerie, like a haunted house to scare people. And there's like this orifice where an eye is, and like I don't even know how you describe it, like a severed boob that like looks like an eyeball.
Yeah. It's a tit. She like coughs it up out of her eye hole.
It's unreal. It's like, who came up with this idea? Who thought of this? Whose brain was like, this is the image that needs to be on celluloid? I don't know, someone. But like now her body is like decomposing and out comes the blood hose. Like she starts spurting blood out of her various orifices all over the audience. And it's gnarly, Brian. What would you say?
So this was amazing. I read that originally they were talking to like some theater somewhere. Oh, can we film here? And they're like, oh, so there's going to be a little bit of blood, right? And they're like, yeah, more than a little. And the end result being that they had to like build this whole theater from scratch because the amount of blood they wanted to have was just going to destroy whatever set they used.
Yeah.
Because it's a blood fire hose. It's a fire hose of blood. And the way they filmed this and edited it is amazing. It's very chaotic. It had me thinking of Carrie. I think has some of the same stuff going on where it's like, you know, a woman wronged, wreaking the bloody havoc on the assembled crowd.
Right, and then like people start fighting it, and like every time they destroy it, first of all, it explodes with like 150 times the amount of blood that would actually be there, and second, like honestly, maybe even more than that. And then like some new version of one of the two characters, like a misshapen version of their faces combined, sprouts like a tumor.
And everybody's running around in the theater, and they're like, the aisles have turned into slip and slides
Of blood. Yeah, it's crazy. And this is kind of like what the ending of Revenge is. It's like a woman hunting down a man, and they're both bleeding a lot, and it's like they're going over the same spaces, and this place turns into like a river of blood, everything red. But the substance raises it to a new level. Like I could not believe what I was watching. It's like just truly a masterpiece of fake blood and dysmorphia, and I don't know what else you would call it. Oh, and of course, then it's contrasted to the other beautiful actresses who are on screen and more or less naked. They're getting the blood and viscera splattered all over them. The people who are there to celebrate are like running and screaming. There's like little kids crying in the audience, and it's just it's intense. Good stuff, Brian. Messed up, shocking, memorable, provocative, but good stuff. It worked for me in a way that like this gross out stuff sometimes doesn't always work for me. Maybe a little impish and over the top, but that's the fun of it, I would say. That's the beauty of it. Like, you're never going to say they could have gone further. I said in Pearl, it could have gone, it's a great movie. Could have gone a little further. You never say that about The Substance. No one would watch The Substance and be like, you know what? It didn't push far enough. It left things on the table. Nothing left on the table in The Substance.
No punches pulled.
So now there's panic, there's disgrace, people running away, and like what's left of this Eliza Sue or whatever it is like escaping the studio in its mutilated form. There's like 100 faces spread out through the body that's like slowly disintegrating. And of course, where does it collapse, Brian? Right on the original Hollywood star of fame for Elizabeth Sparkle. And we see like her, a last like sort of fleshy, almost Medusa looking with like tendrils of flesh sticking out of it version of Demi Moore's face slowly disintegrating in a bloody pulp over the star.
Right, it's like a starfish, and it crawls over top of the star and then mushes.
Yeah. And that's how the movie ends. Brian, The Substance. We did it. We got through 140 minutes of this story, which I'll point out, it's not just 140 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. There's basically one character, or like two versions of the one character for like 75% of the runtime. So really kudos to Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley for like carrying this film. But I think it really comes down to the direction and the editing and the production design and the set design. Like you said, it's so ironic that this won Best Screenplay. The screenplay is like barely there. It's like not much of a screenplay at all. It's almost like it was a runner-up award. You know, it's like we wanted to give it something. Well, we'll give it Best Screenplay because we don't want to give it the Palme d'Or, but we'll give it the Best Screenplay, I guess. Why? This is not a Best Screenplay type of movie, Brian, but it is Best Direction. It is Best Production Design. I wouldn't be surprised if this got one or two Oscar nominations for like a below-the-line type thing. Like, I don't know what they are.
I hope it gets visual effects nomination at least.
By the way, I don't know who did what, but the special effects are by Olaf Teidinger. His only credit is this film. And the production design is Stanislas Raidele. And all of his other movies look like just dramas. So maybe they have something in there. I don't know. But I don't know where this came from. I have to think it was mostly the director who was driving this vision. Or maybe they're the art directors. There's a bunch of credited art directors too. But all women, by the way. I was looking at a lot of women in the credits here.
Oh, interesting. Also, I looked at the cover of A Fish Out of Water, and while the illustrations are by P.D. Eastman, written by Helen Palmer.
Oh.
So, written by a woman.
There you go. All right, Brian. One last thing I want to read. Hunter Allen, he's a cool guy. He appeared on our pod once. He writes this terrific movie review site called Kinemalog. I've mentioned it several times. He has this terrific review of this. He gave a 10 out of 10 to The Substance, which anytime Kinemalog gives out a 10 out of 10, it's a special occasion. One line I really liked on this is he was articulating the theme, and I thought this was a succinct way to put it, or at least one of the themes kind of at the top of the film. Beauty is pain, but many women will endure the latter for the former, which I think is a good way of putting it. So kudos to Hunter for that. Any other things you want to call out that we might not have touched on before we get to rating this film, Brian?
Well, a few of our friends left good reviews of this movie on Letterboxd, had thoughtful things to say. Know that we do read what you guys write, as I'm sure you do for us. It was a good one. I'm ready to rate.
Okay. Is it good as our signature section, where we each give the movie a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating, toward a good, which is an 8 out of 8. Brian, is The Substance from just this past year good?
I actually am going to give this one the masterpiece rating. 8 out of 8, toward a good. I don't always get there on the first viewing of a movie. Sometimes I have to think about it for a while. I held back on Pearl, but I think this just swings for the fences. It really, really goes there. The production design is awesome. The editing, great. The cinematography is totally wild. And it's all purposeful. Like, it all serves its theme. So you're never really in doubt of what the themes are. You compared it to Mulholland Drive. As crazy as this one is, I could follow it way, way, way better than Mulholland Drive. Like, it's a fairly straightforward story, A to B to C, even though you can't, like, predict what visuals you're going to see. But that's where I'm at. Really recommend. Hopefully you checked it out before we spoiled it for you, but it's colorful, it's memorable, it has something to say. Watch The Substance.
So now it's my turn to answer, is it good? I think this is a terrific movie. I think this is a really special film. I think Coralie, let me try it one more time. Coralie Fergeat, I don't know.
You got to give something to make Gavin mad. It's not a Goods episode if we don't say something that's going to trigger Gavin.
Yeah, if you're on our Goods Film Podcast Discord, which you can find at thegoodsfilmpodcast.com, Gavin has been taking us to town for all the stupid stuff we've said over the episodes. Thank you to Gavin for listening. Thank you to Gavin for the feedback. You know, sometimes I feel like it's better to get somebody telling you that you're just a total jackass and you're saying dumb stuff. That's like more validating than somebody not even listening. So thank you to Gavin out there holding us to a high standard, not giving us an easy time. And you know what? I appreciate that. Gavin's a friend of the pod, so it's done in kindness. In what's the word? Constructive criticism.
Right, ensuring the best product.
Like the first time I watched it, I was like, that's very clearly a 7. That's an exceptionally good. I really love this. This is provoking me. I'm almost there on bumping this up to an 8. It would even work even better for me the second time through. just because like I was getting excited. I was like quivering with anticipation. Like my hands were shaking. I was like, oh, this is gonna do it. She's gonna do it. And I knew when something was about to happen, and like the anticipation of it got me even more than the surprise of it. So I thought it rewatched well too. Things that I would often complain about on movies like this being too long, being just so obviously on the nose with its themes, being not subtle at all. I don't know, just like almost gratuitous in everything about the presentation. All made it better for me. Elevated it all. Very maximal film. Just totally maximal. And we're in an age of maximal cinema. Everything, everywhere, all at once, one Best Picture. Barbie, maximal in its own way. Not the same way, of course, but maximal in its own way. Biggest movie of 2023. We're in an era of maximal film, Brian, and it's exciting. And this one is I don't know.
Yeah, The Substance is like Barbie if it didn't have America Ferrera stating the themes for 5 minutes.
But instead had
a blood cannon.
I think it's a little more than that. Yeah, it said like David Cronenberg made it too also. You know, and it was rated R. Man, it does have some thematic overlap with Barbie, of course, too. But I'm just going to give this a high-end 7 now. 4.5 stars if it were letterboxed, on the verge of an 8. I do think it's still like it got a little bit of impishness to it that maybe holds me back just a little bit, but all to make the movie better. That is The Substance. Probably in my top 10 of the decade so far, along with Pearl, which we talked about not too long ago. But a terrific film. So I'm glad that you liked it too, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Not only am I glad that you liked it, but I'm glad that the build-up that I gave it did not make it anything less. It lived up to the hype of this is wild, and you got to see it as unspoiled as possible. But that is The Substance. Brian, what are we going to be watching next week?
I want to continue the trend of vaguely titled anonymous matter movies. And so the movie that I have picked is The Stuff from 1985. How else to follow up The Substance but with The Stuff? This is one that I've had on my list of like potential October picks for years. Never quite gotten to it yet, but I thought now's the time. You know, I don't have a whole lot of like Thanksgiving or Christmas movies that I'm champing at the bit to feature. So it's The Stuff. Although, you know, maybe it is a good Thanksgiving pick. It's all about eating stuff and the marketing of food products.
I don't know anything about this. The one thing I do know about it is back in 2020, I asked my friend Hunter for 3 film recommendations. They were 12 Monkeys, Repo Man, and This Stuff.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
So, and you liked the first 2. So, we'll see. So you said you haven't seen this one yet?
I have seen this one.
Oh, you have seen it. Okay, cool. So we'll see if you reacted positively to this one as well. But I'm looking forward to it, Brian. Hopefully my voice is back up to full speed by the time we record next week. But thank you for bearing with me, listeners and Brian. And yeah, go check out The Substance if we haven't grossed you out enough that you don't want to go see it. But it's worth it, I would say. And have a good week, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Join us again.